Okay, so here's the thing. The final games of this match week number 10 has already been done a long time ago, and I'm actually doing this a little bit later than I anticipated to do because I had to go somewhere today. And the thing is, I am in a stretch where I am just super busy, and that since final exam is coming up in about a couple of weeks, I will not have a lot of time to do these kind of videos, which means that I'm gonna just kind of speed run through these videos. And in some way, I kind of don't like to do that because I want to give you guys a lot of information about these matches. You know, it just feels like I'm kind of like rushing all of these kind of videos that I'm doing. But unfortunately, I kind of had to do that because I just don't have a lot of time right now. I mean, this is the busiest. Usually, this is one of the busiest and one of the toughest time to balance in terms of making YouTube video and schoolwork because it's final exam season again. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into this. And oh, by the way, I'm going to make the power rankings tomorrow instead of today. And I will do the midweek preview on Tuesday instead of on Monday. I think all the midweek games are on Wednesday, so I can still do it on Tuesday. But yeah, without further ado, let's actually get started. And we start with this one. Not much to talk about this one. You know, TFC did exactly what I expected to them, which is getting all 3 points. And they got 3 goals in this games from Vasquez, Javinko, and Chapman. And I look on the MLSsoccer.com website, and I actually found out that Javinko only scored his first goal this season for Toronto. Now, I'm not sure if that is a mistake or something like that, because I for sure think that Javinko has scored another goal than just the one that he has scored in this game against Philly this season. But, you know, he scored his first goal this season according to the official MLS website. And like I said, Vasquez and Chapman scores the other 2 goals for Toronto. And like I said, there's really not much to talk about this because Toronto basically just control throughout this game. I mean, Philly did had a couple of chances in this game, but it's basically typical Philly in this game, which is they just don't take their chances. And yeah, it's just the story of their season, isn't it? But yeah, good win for Toronto. Let's see if this will probably maybe the beginning of them trying to make up ground for their first couple of weeks of the season where they dropped a lot of points and lost a lot of games because they had that CCL commitment that they were going through. But yeah, next up, this one. This game really reminds me of that 7-0 game a couple of years ago. And I think if there is one team right now that NYCFC just praying to God they do not see in the playoffs, it has to be the Red Bulls. It has to be their noisy neighbors. Or I think maybe you could say that the Red Bulls are kind of like thinking that NYCFC is the noisy neighbor, but not the other way around. But yeah, I mean, 4-0 against NYCFC. This game wasn't even close one bit. I mean, the Red Bulls pretty much just control this game from the beginning to the end. You know, it doesn't help the fact that NYCFC concede 2 goals in the first 5 minutes and then concede 3 goals in the first half. I mean, this game was just over in the first half. Like, there was and as soon as David Villa got subbed off, and he was absolutely fuming about getting subbed off. I mean, you saw his face when he was walk off the pitch. He was not happy to be subbed off. And, you know, I know that some NYCFC fans kind of just question why does Patrick Vieira brought Villa off when he can potentially be a difference maker for NYCFC. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that they don't want to have Villa just completely burn out. I mean, a lot of people forget that Villa is like, 35 or 36 years old. He's right near the tail end of his career, and I think this is probably either his last year or maybe the next year is going to be probably his last year of his playing career. So, Patrick Vieira knows that he can't just completely burn his start out, even though when they're like down 4-0 like that. And yeah, like I said, the Red Bulls just completely dominated this game, and it's been kind of the case for them whenever they play NYCFC, especially at Red Bull Arena. Coming into this game, I thought the Red Bulls were favorites against NYCFC, even though NYCFC is one of the best team in the league, because the Red Bulls, for some reason, they just able to figure out a way to break down this NYCFC team. And now that I have heard about I think the other thing is that ever since the rumor of Patrick Vieira going to Arsenal, NYCFC has lost 2 of their last 3 matches. And you wonder, is that kind of a distraction right now with NYCFC and in Patrick Vieira's mind that, maybe it's his time to go to Arsenal. And as a Chelsea fan, I definitely hope he goes to Arsenal, because it's pretty clear right now that if you've seen NYCFC and you've seen how Patrick Vieira managed, he usually does not show up in the big games. And that is exactly what Arsenal is. So, yeah, I don't know why Arsenal fans want Vieira in their team as the manager so much. Well, I think it's because there is that Arsenal connection, but you've seen Vieira in the past how he always tend to ball in the big moment. And speaking of which, that has to be a big concern for NYCFC, because if this is how it is, if they play in these big games, which they're going to get once they make the playoffs, then yeah, that is going to be a huge concern. But yeah, next up, Minnesota with another win. The Loons are now got back-to-back wins twice this season, and we're not even through June yet. We're not even through halfway through the season, and they are actually now in 5th in the standings. It's incredible the fact that how this team, with the fact that so many of their starters and so many of their star player in this team out, and yet they're still winning games. You just wonder what happened if they still have those star player that is basically done for the season. Guys like Ethan Finlay, Kevin Molino, and maybe Sam Cronin in this team. You wonder if those player are in there for Minnesota, maybe the Loons are kind of contender right now with the way how they're playing right now. But the bottom line of this game is that Vancouver. Oh boy, Vancouver, and I said this, I think, in my power rankings kind of talk, and I said this last week also. How in the world is Vancouver 3rd in the Western Conference? I know that some people will say the fact that they had played more games than anybody else, and that's why they're kind of high up the table. But seriously, how is this team 3rd? How is this team even looking like a playoff team right now? This team looked like a team that is near the bottom of the table after this game. The fact that you cannot even score against a Minnesota team that it has a very leaky defense, and the fact that you were up a man for the last 30 minutes of this game, or actually not the last 30 minutes, I actually got this wrong. This actually should say 50. Minnesota went down to 10 men in the 50th minute, and the fact that you were up a man for the last 40 minutes and you concede a goal in during that time when Minnesota was down to 10 men, it is just absolutely unacceptable. And the Whitecaps fan base are just crying for their front office to fire Carl Robinson. And I just have a feeling that he might potentially be the first manager that is going to get sacked this year. The way that Vancouver has gone in these last couple of games has been it's just been absolutely unacceptable. And this game is beyond unacceptable too, because to lose to Minnesota is bad enough, but to lose them when you had a man advantage and you concede the goal during the time when you had a man advantage, yeah, that is even worse. And don't get me talk about how they had so many chances and they were unlucky and stuff like that. Yeah, that is called not taking your chances, Vancouver. But all props to the Loons and all props to Minnesota for getting a win. And as a Quakes fans, this is bad news for us because remember how I said a couple of weeks ago how doing this, well, not a couple of weeks ago, but probably in my Quakes preview that this was one of those games that seems to be winnable. Yeah, it doesn't seem like is it right now. I mean, Minnesota is they're just red hot right now, and the Quakes, on the other hand, are just absolutely stone cold. More information when we get to this game. But yeah, next up, LAFC drew 1-1 against FC Dallas. Goals from Beta Shore for LAFC and for FC Dallas. Maxi Urruti with the goal. The Beta Shore goal was a bit controversial because it looked like he was offside and they didn't go to VAR to look at that incident, which pretty much just summoned a lot of VAR haters in the comments and also in the Twitter feeds that why in the world did that not go to VAR. And even on the replay, I thought that Beta Shore was kind of offside. I mean, I think his hand and his leg was kind of like in an offside position, but the referee let that one go. LAFC had a couple of chances to maybe score 2 or 3 goals. Dallas, on the other hand, had a couple of chances to do pretty much the same thing. And all in all, it ends in a draw. And I think this draw really helps FC Dallas in many ways because FC Dallas right now, through this tough stretch that they are in, they have already picked up a couple of points so far. So, for Dallas, definitely this is good news. And, also the fact that Maxi Urruti scored a goal will be a huge bonus for FC Dallas. They really need him to get going alongside with Mauro Diaz. And, as for LAFC, it's a disappointing draw, but since they are just way ahead in the standing, I wouldn't be that concerned the fact that, they just drop points at home. I mean, that's the luxury of LAFC right now. The fact that they, for the first couple of games, they got all these points. Even if they drop 1 or 2 points or 1 or 2 games at home, I don't think it's kind of like a panic time to say LAFC is going to just fade away. Now, if LAFC continue to go through this bad stretch, I wouldn't call bad stretch, but kind of like this little mini kind of bad stretch because, remember the last game how they kind of got lucky with that 1-0 win with the opposing goalkeeper just made an absolute howler and was gifted the 3 points. If LAFC continue this kind of mini kind of bad run, then maybe there are some concern. And also another headlines in this is that Lee Gwyn actually played in this game, and I was absolutely shocked the fact that he was sub on. Like, I thought for sure that he was not ready in terms of his fitness and that they would need to get him 3 or 4 weeks up to his fitness, but no, he just jumped straight into there, and he didn't look that kind of, his debut wasn't like very spectacular. I mean, he did make 1 good pass right around the 85th minute. I think it was to Vela, but other than that, it was an okay kind of game for him. And, like I said, I was kind of surprised that he was subbed into that game considering the fact that he hasn't played in over 6 or 7 months right now. But yeah, next up, well, Vancouver, if you are kind of disappointed that your team did not capitalize the fact that you were up a man in majority of the game, then don't feel bad because your Cascadia neighbor Seattle basically did the same thing. And in some way, I think Sounders fan must be even more infuriating about this result than the Vancouver one, even though Seattle did get a point out of this. I mean, Seattle fan was so angry about this result that right at the end of this final whistle, the fan just basically, they booed the Seattle Sounders player. Like it was just a sense of frustration, the fact that they couldn't score a goal. And Seattle has now gone a long time, I think almost 200 minute, or kind of like over 200 minute now, without scoring a goal right now. And the fact that they had a man advantage for 75 minutes. Vancouver had a man advantage for like 40 minutes, but Seattle had 75 minutes in this game to try to take advantage with a man up and trying to score a goal, and they still couldn't do that. And what's even more frustrating is that, unlike Vancouver that were actually trying to score a goal, Seattle couldn't even bother to do that. Like, they were just, I don't even know what was their game plan in terms of attack. It's almost as if when they were up a man, they just don't know what to do at all. Like, they don't know how to take advantage of it. They keep trying to cross the ball in, and Columbus just, when those ball always cross in, they always are in the right spot to kind of like head it out, which kind of also credits how the Crew defend when they were down to 10 men in this. I thought they did very good job in terms of that department. But for the Sounders, they really did not trouble the Crew at all when the Crew down to 10 men. And yeah, it is just absolutely infuriating right now. And now I understand why people are saying that Seattle is absolutely trash, because the bottom line is they are actually trash. I mean, right now, I don't think Brian Schmetzer has any more excuse to kind of explain why this Sounder team is that bad. I mean, before he had the excuse of CCL commitment and the fact that his team is down a lot of injuries. And although they did not have Lodeiro in this game, I don't think that would have made any difference. I mean, if Lodeiro is in this one, I still don't think they're gonna have a very good threat up front, mainly because this team just don't have a goal scorer. They don't have that striker that they really need. I mean, the only kind of striker that they kind of have right now is Dempsey and Will Bruin, and both of them are just not good enough. Like, Dempsey is just, he is started to show his age, and just the father time is catching up him in a very fast pace right now, and he just looked absolutely disinterested in most of the time. And yeah, I mean, Seattle's got to do something about the goal scoring department. They got to sign a striker this summer transfer window. If they don't sign anybody in the summer transfer window, especially an attacking kind of player and a player that can put the ball into the back of the net, then this Sounder team is not going to make the playoffs. I mean, this Sounder team, despite the fact that I've been saying that in the past they have got off to sort of a bad start and that eventually they kind of turned up in the second half of the season, yeah, I don't think that is going to be the case again. I mean, this season, I feel like this time the bad start that they have right now is probably the worst out of the first two times when they had a bad start to start the season. And really, the bottom line is, if they don't get a guy that can put the ball into the back of the net, Seattle this season is done. Like, they are not going to make the playoffs. And I think this would be probably the first time in a long time, or maybe even the first time in club history, that Seattle is not going to be making the playoffs, because Seattle, for the last 10 years that they've been in, ever since they went to the MLS, this team have not missed the playoffs. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what will they do in the summer, and whether or not if they're going to sign somebody. But yeah, next up, Atlanta with a 2-1 win against Chicago. And actually, this should be the other way around, because Chicago was the home team. But still, Atlanta did get a win. Goals from Ezequiel Barco, which was his first ever goal in MLS. And actually, the Chicago announcer originally got the goal scorer wrong in this first goal by Atlanta. Originally, they said Gonzalez Perez scored the goal, even though it was clear that it wasn't Gonzalez Perez that scored the goal. It was Ezequiel Barco. Now, I'm not quite sure, did they correct their mistake a couple of minutes later because I watched the condensed version of this game. I actually didn't really watch this game, but yeah, the comment section and also the Twitter feed was just hammering on the Chicago announcers, saying that they completely got that one wrong. But the other goal scored by Joseph Martinez, which, by the way, how about Darlington Nagbe unselfishness to give the ball to Joseph Martinez? Like, Darlington Nagbe could have easily just trying to tap it over Richard Sanchez and claim his first ever goal for Atlanta United, but instead he made an unselfish play, just tap it right back to Martinez to basically slot it home into the back of the net. And now Joseph Martinez has 7 goals, which I think that is the most goal in MLS, and that he is now the leading goal scorer in this league. But going back to what Darlington Nagbe and his unselfishness play, I mean, it doesn't get much unselfish as it gets with what Darlington Nagbe did in that play. Chicago tried to pull one back. Well, Chicago did pull one back and try to make this game very interesting with Kevin Ellis with a goal, but you know, Atlanta basically just continues to dominate this game, and ultimately they ran out with a 2-1 victory. And this has been kind of the performance that Atlanta has done on the road. You know, they haven't been a team that just completely steamrolled everybody like they do whenever it's at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But every time that they go on the road, it's always kind of like this little grind kind of resort, and that they just score enough to get a result. And at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with that unless you do not get all 3 points. So, you know, Atlanta certainly, they are now, I think they're now 7 unbeaten right now. They have won 6 of their last 7 match, and they are just on a collision course with Orlando next week. And more on that when we get to this match. But yeah, next up, Houston with a 3-2 victory over the Galaxy. Goals from Fulnemeyer, Kyoto, and Rodriguez. The 2 goal score for the Galaxy were Dos Santos and Ola Kamara. And let me just say that this game was just... wow, this game was so bad to watch if you're a fan of defense, because holy crap, both defense was so bad. And also the goalkeeper for the Galaxy, which you know who it is, was also very bad. And I certainly enjoyed seeing the Galaxy goalkeeper had a very bad game. I mean, did you see how in that second goal he conceded the fact that the ball was coming in? And I know there was like 2 Galaxy player in front of him, which kind of blocks his vision. I think it was Ibro was one of the player that was kind of in the Galaxy goalkeeper way. But yeah, he probably should have get that ball. He probably should have just catch it and not let it into the back of the net. And then the winning goal that he conceded, basically it was just a simple cross that, you know, he could have just easily catch, but he just let it go, and it just goes into one of the Dino player. And I know some Galaxy fans said, well, it looked like it was a kind of a deflection on one of the Galaxy defender, but still, it looks like that deflection, which it was a very small kind of deflection, and I thought the Galaxy goalkeeper could have done a better job at that. So yeah, you know, for Houston, certainly they kind of got a break in this game, and in no ways that Houston should be overly excited that this team is back, because there is still many problems. And as for the Galaxy, well, remember how I said whoever lose in this game are in big trouble? That is exactly what the Galaxy is right now. They are in deep trouble right now. And this team looks exactly like the way that they play in this game looks exactly like the Galaxy team that played last year. And you all know that last year's Galaxy team was absolutely horrendous. And, you know, the back line for the Galaxy looks nothing new from last season. They're still conceding goals, and they're still just look very disorganized. The midfield is also a bit of a shambles, and their striker are not really producing much. You know, Kamara, even though he did score, I think this is like his third goal of this season or his second, so he hasn't really contributed a lot. And Ibra hasn't also contribute a lot to his team. I mean, all that hype about Ibra at the Galaxy has really died out quickly. I mean, but yeah, next one. Sporting KC with a 1-0 win against the Rapids. The only goal is Salah with the goal in the 16th minute. And like this game against TFC, this one there's not much to talk about other than the fact that, you know, Sporting KC got the job done. They probably could have scored more in this game if they were more clinical. And Colorado was just straight up garbage in this game, and it's just a typical Colorado Rapids road kind of performance, which is really bad. But yeah, next one. Oh god. Oh man. I really want to just try to get this done as quickly as possible, because holy crap, I really don't want to talk about this game. So Diego Valeri with the only goal in this game, with a fantastic free kick that potentially would be a nomination for goal of the week. And the funny thing about this goal is that if you watch my match vlog, you would know that I kind of called it and said that Valeri was going to score, and he scored. And for the second week in a row, the Quakes give up goals late into the game to drop all 3 points. And once again, it is another frustrating performance by this team. And this time, the problems for the Quakes were not really the defense. That has been just the biggest problem throughout the season. The problems is the attack. And my oh my, the attacking performance in this game was not only very similar to the performance against Houston, but it looked like a Dominic Kinnear kind of attacking performance. I mean, there was no movement whatsoever. There was no creativity in the midfield. There was just no fluidity at all in the midfield. And the final ball is as bad as a third-tier team. I mean, it was absolutely shocking performance. And just even the whole game, watching that whole game, it was so painful to watch. Like, I think that game in the second half, I probably grunt more than I have ever done at a Quakes game, because that was just, it was so frustrated to see the team just not always do sideways passing and just not go up forward to try to be adventurous and trying to potentially score the first goal. And there was also no urgency to score that first goal. It almost seems like we were happy to take a 0-0 draw against Portland. Like, I don't get why that was I think maybe that was the tactics of Michael Story. And if that was the tactics, that is clearly the wrong tactics that he is used. You use those tactics on the road. You know, I will kind of excuse on that, because, you know, it is on the road and usually you don't have a lot of chances to score goals. But if you do it at home against a Timbers team that has one of the worst defense in the league, stop it. Just stop it, okay? And speaking of Michael Starhay, remember how last week I said that his job, you know, it's kind of like a little bit early, the fact that potentially he is going to get the sacking. Well, I'm still going to say that it's kind of still early, the fact that he is going to be in danger of getting the sack. But if he continues this winless run, if this winless run, which is now at 7, and it is the longest in the league, if this continues, it is a sackable offense. I mean, I think the front office just had no choice to just sack him. And speaking of the front office, I also want to quickly mention that Jesse Forinelli is another guy that I think we should start really kind of question and put him in the hot seat too, because all this time of how we give Jesse Forinelli credit of trying to make this team good and all these kind of signings and stuff like that, yeah, these signings have clearly not worked one bit at all. And one of the other things that it was so frustrated to me, and one of the things that the front office clearly should have done, but they did not do at all because they were worried the attack was going to be an issue this year, is that we just don't have a left back. And although in this game I thought Shea Salinas for once actually had a pretty decent game, the left back situation is still a big problem for us. And the incompetence of us not fulfilling one of the spot that we desperately need, and the fact that some of the signings have clearly not worked out as it should be. You know, Jesse Forinelli should be joining that list of one of many players, or not one of many players, but one of many kind of staff members in that Quakes organization that should be feeling the heat right now, because it is just ridiculous seeing this team day in and day out. And if they continue to play this, I won't be surprised if Avaya Stadium will have a lot of empty seat. And to be fair, there were a lot of empty seat in this game. I know that a lot of comments talked about how Avaya Stadium there was empty seats around the section. Like, if you even watch my vlog, you can see empty seats behind me. And it's a good thing that I didn't even put my camera a little bit more toward my left, because my whole row, there was only 3 people sitting in my row. That just tells you how the fans are getting frustrated, and that we just keep playing this kind of boring kind of brand of football that we've been playing for the last 6 and 7 years, and that it feels like there's just nothing is changing with this Quakes. This whole new era kind of Quakes kind of thing that we were hoping from last year looks completely false now. It looks like completely false hope for this season. And unless this team can prove me wrong and really just start waking up and finally getting some resort, we are done this season. We are not going to make the playoffs, and we are going backwards again, and we're going to have to start all over again like we have been doing for pretty much every single year ever since we got back to San Jose via that expansion back in 2008. I mean, it's so infuriating right now to be a Quakes fan for these last couple of years, because it's the organization, the front office, and the managing just made some stupid decision over and over again, and it just feels like this team just keep stucking at the same position as they were. But yeah, last game to talk about, Orlando with a 3-1 win against RSL. It's another comeback win for Orlando City. Nothing new, because that's what Orlando City does. RSL actually took the lead in this game. They score in the 13th minute thanks to Baird, I believe that's how you pronounce him. And he probably should have had 2 goals in this game, because he had another chance right around the half-hour mark, but he hit it off the post. And in all fairness, RSL probably should have had at least 4 goals in this game. I mean, the finishing for RSL in this game was absolutely dreadful, and it's also pretty clear why a lot of RSL fans have been saying that they need a real striker. They're kind of like what Seattle is right now, where they really need a striker because it seemed like nobody can score for us. We can't just keep relying on our talented midfield to just score goals for us, because that's not what a lot of midfield does. But, you know, Orlando City came back into this game. Goals from Dwyer, Sane, and Yotun. And Orlando City have now won 6 in a row. And like I said about the collision course with Atlanta, that is going to be the case next week. My oh my, I cannot wait for that Orlando City versus Atlanta match. I mean, I think that probably is the best matchup that we will see this season. I mean, I know we had the Atlanta versus NYCFC match, which that was also a very good matchup, but Orlando City versus Atlanta, 2 teams that have been unbeaten for a while. You know, somebody's unbeaten run potentially could come to an end at this. You know, if I would have kind of put my money early to see who wins that matchup, I would say maybe Atlanta, because Atlanta is just so good at home. But you never know. Orlando is a team that you should never count out, because they just always tends to love to do comebacks, and it's pretty much the reason why a lot of fans are calling them the Cardiac Cats, because that's what they do. They come back. They always do late comeback, and they also, so right near the end of the game, just make their fans very scared by trying to hold on to either a 1-goal lead or just trying to score a winning goal late in the game. But yeah, that is pretty much it for my preview. Let me know, or not preview, review. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this game? Are you happy with how your team did this week, or are you absolutely pissed off of what your team did? And I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get a couple of comments from Seattle Quakes and probably Galaxy fans also. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button, and yeah, I will see you guys next time.